Okay, so here's what I'm questioning right now. Who has it more right, Bart Kay or Paul Saladino? Now, Bart Kay would argue that fruit and meat are not good together, and the reason why is the Randle cycle, meaning you shouldn't be eating any carbohydrates, basically, because if you do, and you eat meat and fat as well, you're going to be having a cycle that is going to interfere with the use of either carbohydrates or fats, depending on the particular situation at the time going on in your body, with your cells' intake of carbohydrates or fat based upon the Randle cycle.
I have a question for you, Bart, around the Randle cycle.
Yes, go for it.
Um,
Yeah.
so let's say, at breakfast time you eat a purely carnivorous meal,
hmm
just, protein and fats,
hmm
and then let's say, 8 hours later you eat carbs without fats. Would that still be, activating the Randle cycle?
Really depends on how much you ate at breakfast, whether that was a one meal a day sort of breakfast that was a real huge breakfast, or whether it was quite a bit smaller than that. It depends on how much fat and how much protein was in that, because that
Okay.
would also determine the gluconeogenic effect of that protein, how much sugar would have been produced out of that, which in and of itself would activate the Randle cycle. A larger bolus of food will dump more energy substrate into your bloodstream after you've absorbed it over the next hour or so than a smaller meal would, and so therefore there would be an elevation of substrates in your blood for longer. And then if you then later had some carbs and you still had a lot of energy in your bloodstream, then they're going to get backed up and the Randle cycle
Sure.
will definitely be activated. It's one of those, how long's a piece of string, what else is going on, how active have you been that day, what exercise were you doing, did you train, all of those things
Yeah.
come into play. And the other thing that a lot of people don't understand about the Randle cycle is it's not an on-off thing. It's a
Sure.
continuum that slides between on and off, somewhere in the middle. Anytime anybody eats any food, whether they're a carnivore, whether they're a vegan, whether they're somewhere in between, that will activate the Randle cycle to some extent,
Sure.
because you will
Okay.
always be putting more energy into your blood than you can use at that time.
hmm
The difference between one meal and another, other than the size of the meal in terms of its energy content, etc., is the makeup. So a mixed meal of carbs and fat will activate the Randle cycle most fully and for the longest period of time. The second most aggravating thing for the Randle cycle is a carb-based meal with no fat or low fat, and a meal of fat and protein almost doesn't activate it at all unless it's a huge meal and you get a bunch of gluconeogenesis out of it, and then in which case it will. So that's kind of it's not a dodge, but it's like well, it really depends type answer.
Then you have Paul Saladino, who was carnivore, eating mostly meat and organs, who switched to eating some fruit. Bart Kay says he is completely wrong. I like his idea. I think it seems good. It almost feels like it feels good to me doing it, eating fruit and meat, but I do question it. So this is something that's in my mind right now. I'm putting it out there, and I'm wondering, how can we prove one way or the other which one is better for you? It wouldn't be very easy to do that, but it's a good question, I think.
I won't look back when you're around. I won't think twice when you're gone.